All right, thank you. I'll now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. Horowitz, there are several components within the Department of Justice. Why are there multiple different standards and policies for confidential informants? Why not just one that they all operate under? Why do they each have individual ones? What's the answer to that question?
Well, I think in part it has to do with different missions, but that is a question we've repeatedly asked whenever we've looked at programs. We asked that question in the Fast and Furious review that we did. I think there are reasons why, for example, the FBI, which has a substantial counterintelligence component, would require additional and particular policies, but I think one of the challenges the Department faces is making sure that through the Deputy Attorney General's office, it is making sure that each of the components have certain baseline procedures that every single one of the components needs to meet.
Okay, so have you been able to look at, for instance, the DEA confidential informant policy?
We have.
Mr. Patterson.
Yes.
We've asked repeatedly to see this policy. You have yet to give us a copy of this policy. Why not?
Sir, back in November, you had asked me at the end of that hearing to provide you a copy. I set off on that endeavor throughout the month of December trying to get that, or at least get some clarity as to the turning over of that policy. It became relatively apparent to me that I was going to need to wait for the next administration as people were leaving, as the outgoing administration and folks were leaving the department.
Were you told not to give it to us?
During the previous administration?
Yes.
I got, quite frankly, no real answer.
Which means don't do it?
My understanding from the department at the time was that the policy would not be turned over based on department policy. I had been doing
so let me go back to June 22nd of 2016. Mr. Rosenberg. Who's Mr. Rosenberg?
The administrator of DEA.
And he was before the Senate Judiciary Committee when Senator Grassley, who happens to be the chairman of that committee, asked if it had been completed and asked if the Senate Judiciary Committee could get a copy of it. Here's what Mr. Rosenberg said, and I quote, "It has been finalized. It's been approved by the department. I'm more than happy to provide a copy to this committee and to your staff, sir," end quote. Did they ever give a copy of the confidential informant policy to Senator Grassley and the Senate Judiciary Committee?
They did not.
Why not?
I have spoken to the administrator about that comment. You caught me off guard when you had brought that up on November 30th. He had said that he had intended to mean in camera as a copy of the policy.
You understand that that's different, right? We've had this discussion.
We have had that discussion, sir.
Okay, let's play. I actually want to play the video of you and I having this discussion from last time you were here in November of last year. Let's go ahead and put up this video if we could. And why? What's the justification for not allowing us, giving us a copy of that policy?
That I don't know, sir, but I'd be happy to find out what the justification is and also get that.
When will you get me that answer?
I will get you that answer as quickly as possible after returning to the office.
Do you understand that in camera is different than giving us a copy of that policy?
I do understand that.
And you understand we're not going to be satisfied with an in-camera review?
You're making that very clear.
Okay. So, Mr. Patterson, when did you give me the answer to that question?
I have not, sir. My understanding is...
And you testified under oath, you promised me in November, as soon as you get back to your office. And we're in April, and I still don't have it, and I still don't have an excuse either. So why are you not giving this to us?
Sir, my understanding is that committee staff was contacted yesterday by the department.
Yesterday, right before a hearing. What a coincidence.
Sir, if I may say this, so I will take full responsibility that I know the Attorney General was sworn in February, and from February until March 11th, I did not go back to ask this question. On March 11th, I had the opportunity to watch other hearing, which prompted me to ask two questions to the department. One was why Mr. Horowitz hadn't received our policy on mitigation for threats, and the second was to go back and say that we still have a lingering thing to address the issue of the policy and the request of yourself.
Okay, so let me get this straight. The Inspector General and his staff can see the confidential informant policy, but you refuse to give it to Congress. What is it that you think that Congress doesn't have the right to see?
Sir, again, I work for the Department of Justice. And
Who specifically is telling you not to give us this?
I spoke yesterday to members of the DAG's office.
Yeah, okay, let's name some names.
I had a conversation with Armando Bonilla in the DAG's office yesterday.
And what did he tell you?
He made me aware that the committee staff had reached out to you and that you guys were going to work a path forward on this issue.
Okay, so I'm going to have to go to another route, and I hope you understand it. Are you able to accept service of a subpoena? You personally?
I would assume so, yes.
You're not sure? I mean, your boss, right? The acting director is testifying. Actually, it's that way, next door. I think what I'm going to do, if you're not sure, I'm going to have somebody else chair this hearing. I'm also a member of the Judiciary Committee, and I'm going to go serve him this subpoena. Congress has a right to have this material. And it is unbelievable to me that you think that we shouldn't have a copy of it. Now, you may be caught in the middle. You may be listening to others, and I'm sure in your mind you're thinking, I don't get to make this decision unilaterally, but you are the one that the DEA sends before us. And so I don't care if it's the Obama administration or the Trump administration, nothing's changed here. And so in order to get the result that we need so we can provide the proper oversight, we're going to need a copy of that policy. And I'm not buying this whole idea, oh, we give it to Congress, then it's public. We understand how sensitive it is. We have no intention of giving it to the public or releasing it. But I think you do value in some part oversight because you do give it to the Inspector General. But remarkably, you won't give it to the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, nor will you give it to the Senate Judiciary Committee, and my guess is you won't give it to the House Judiciary Committee. And we find that wholly unacceptable. And so I'm forced to get into a position, which I didn't want to have to be into, but we're going to issue this subpoena and get a copy of this material. My time has expired. I'll yield back and now recognize the ranking member.
Let me say this.